Get it underway then. Ladies and gentlemen, after a couple technical difficulties have been resolved, we shall begin episode number 8 of Beyond the Rift, starring the one and only I'm a Cutie Pie. Thank you everybody for joining us today on this wonderful Beyond the Rift. My co-host, the one and only Skara. Skara, let them know who you are.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Scar. I've been here a long time. I've been teams with Cutie. I've been playing with Cutie on 2 different teams, and I've been a coach, a player, content creator, all-around stand-up guy. Cutie, the little dimensions look a little bit weird.
Skype's really starting. Let me just put Skype's really starting to piss me off because it keeps fucking. Do you see it resizing everyone right now?
Yeah.
This shit's fucking triggering me.
Dude, it's alright. This is perfect.
Is this
perfect? By the way, I can't see you, Cutie.
You can't see? Oh, yeah. I don't show up on the fucking,
okay.
Yeah.
Right,
but anyways, Sky, great person. No one gives a shit. What people came here for is our real special guest. Let them know about you, my friend.
So, my name's Hussain. I am the head coach of Misfits since pretty much the inception of the organization. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm not, so much of an all-rounder like Scar over here with fucking 20 different accolades, but...
Hey,
But no wins. Don't worry about it, dude.
No, it's okay. No one's here yet either.
Yeah, you're not doing too shabby yourself, so don't worry about not having Scar's repertoire under your belt. But I'll give a quick little shout out. Discord, wonderful service. I love them, dude. Better than Skype. Biggest fucking piece of shit. Biggest disappointment. I want to say on this show, Bill Gates, fuck you. Skara, I want you to also give a shout out. Who are you giving a shout out to?
Dude, our other sponsor, Ace of Predator, official sponsor of the League of Legends World Championships, as well as our official sponsor for these last couple episodes. Thank you so much for sponsoring us. They'd be great laptops as well as monitors.
Perfect. Well, let's get it underway then. We're going to just hop straight into the questions while this fucking thing keeps resizing itself. Topic number 1, baby. Let's get it underway. So Misfits gave the best Western team performance against the top Korean team at Worlds. How was that possible?
That's a loaded question. So, I remember at the start of the year, Skara did the first video interview I've ever done with Skara, and he asked back then. Yeah, it was pretty good, and he asked back then what the goals of Misfits were and how we were planning on getting there, and pretty much right away at the start of it, I said that the main goal for the organization was to make first of all a top-down structure where you have upper management, then you have coaching staff, then you have players, and there's a direction to everything. So the whole year was spent where multiple roster changes and stuff were made. A lot of things happened behind the scenes, which made it so that both the players felt empowered by the end of it, and the coaching staff had strength. So by the time every single time we come into a boot camp or a tournament structure, you always see Misfits get really fucking good before any playoff or tournament structure, and not so much in the league. And it's because by the time we get to that point, we've built such good synergy between staff and players that we're able to grow really quickly. So for Worlds, it was mostly by the time we got to Korean boot camp, we had a whole split where we knew exactly how each side of the coin worked, and it was very fast. It was very easy and fast how much we improved. So I think people underestimated us at Worlds because of that.
Well, do you guys think that you have it down better than, I guess, other Western teams? I guess you said the top-down structure.
I think the only I know TSM still tries to sort of do that, and I won't speak to TSM structure, but there's still a respect for authority and for a coaching staff there, and then G2 has the same thing, and then outside of that, I'm not sure how much it exists. But from my knowledge or from my experience, I think G2 has the only system that replicates what we have. in terms of like how communication and how communication works between staff and players.
Okay. Do you think that that's like necessary to? Because I know a lot of the time, like I don't know what your take on it is, but with NA teams, when I see them at Worlds, it's like I know that they're gonna do well the first week. We had who do we have on last show talking about this, Skara?
Smithy.
Yeah,
Smithy, right?
yeah, we talked about it last week, but I want your take on, like, what do you think causes? Because I have no fucking idea, but it's happened everywhere else, so it must be something that you could, like, it's not like, wow, what a fluke, dude. What are the chances we lost? We just get fucking obliterated the second week every time. Like, what's your take on that? Do you think it has to do with what you talked about, or?
I don't like know the actual reason for it. Like, it's kind of weird that it happens to every single team. It even kind of happened to C9. I know they made it through, but it was still a shaky week 2 for them. And I don't really know what to pinpoint it to. I think one thing is that usually, and this is probably true for all Western teams, but more so NA teams, usually for some reason in week 2, teams aren't as proactive and as willing to take risks. And maybe that's because they realize what's at stake and wants to lose. And then the other thing is that unlike week 1, you play all your games on the same day, so there's always going to be like a factor where you burn out. So that probably plays a factor into it. They probably mishandle like a long day structure and then how week 2 works, so it's very different from week 1, like how you approach it strategically and mentally. But I don't actually know, because it's really strange that it happens every single Worlds. And I refuse to believe that it's because NA sucks.
Yeah, I don't think it's because NA sucks. I think that there must be, like, a more meaningful reason, like, I don't know, maybe coaching staff dropping the ball, or, like, players are...
It probably has to be coaching staff dropping the ball, but, like, at the same time, EU never does that well in week 1, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not like either coaching staff is really doing well. I don't think any coaching staff in the West, like, really has it down. But it's strange that, like, NA shits the bed so hard every single time week 2.
Yeah. Yeah, it's real. I mean, Scarrett, what's your take on that?
I mean, I want to use the European answer for this. It's just unlucky, you know. That's I don't know. I don't know what happens either. Like I would say like there have been multiple parts where it's different, probably different reasons. And in the end, it does kind of strike me that like, look, it's probably some sort of like top-down management issue. But like that's just an assumption. I have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. Certainly the reason why we didn't do well at Worlds, there wasn't even a week 1 at week 2. It's completely different than any other situation in the current sense. So I'm very underinformed.
All right, fair enough. Well, we'll just go on to the next topic then. So topic number 2. So a lot of people talk about support staff and coaching structure. How many support staff does Misfits have, and what do they do?
So for 2016, we had 4 people total. We had me as the head coach. We had a strategic coach who was a former player called Kiva, a sports psychologist called Isma, and our head analyst, Nasser. So we had like 4 different people in charge of very different things, with me delegating what they were in charge of.
Huh. Okay. Wow. I mean, Sky, you probably know better.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah. Is that how it normally is, or?
I want to say most teams have something similar. I think a lot of teams have more general analysts, maybe, or more like maybe personal coaches. But for the most part, like it seems pretty normal. Like the only thing I'm kind of interested in is like, what is your? You say you had a sports psychologist?
Yeah.
What exactly does he do for your team? I'm just really curious about that.
So it's like everything in our team is like there's always a long-term plan, but then you've all been in gaming houses. There's always issues week to week, or like even day to day sometimes. So he defines, or like as a team, he helps us define what our long-term plan is going to be. But then like mostly it's like day to day, he'll have one-on-ones based on like player goals and stuff, and then also deal with like a lot of personal issues that show up. Like I have a lot of rookies on my team for this year, and there's definitely like shit on stage and stuff that happens that they cannot prepare for. And as always, like every rookie and still quite a few league players like don't take the mental part of the game properly, or like they don't weigh it as highly, like how to approach a game day mentally. So he's essentially in charge of making sure that like we all get our shit together for game day.
How much work does he actually like? Is he being used constantly? Is he just like you got to schedule?
Oh, he was full time on site with us.
Oh, okay, wow.
So he was there every single day.
So,
but that's not normal though.
Oh yeah, I mean, are the players taking advantage of him? Like whenever he's there, like are they actively like going to him and like asking him stuff? Or
so this was also his first split in esports. So there was like a learning process for both of them because I had rookie players and I essentially had like a rookie sports psychologist in esports. So there was a long like building process because they had to learn to like work together and actually trust each other. But like in the second half of the split and definitely like for Worlds prep, they pretty much all of them talked to him daily about like anything from like just, you know, the shit they need regularly to, you know, team goals, individual goals, or whatever's bothering them. So by the end of it, he was pretty crucial.
Okay. I mean, with your support, do you feel like there's anything else that you would need in your support staff, or you feel like that's enough? Because I mean, I know that people have talked about having individual like an ADC coach and stuff. I don't know if that's something that, because I don't know what's too much. I feel like you're gonna start to run into too many staff members at a certain point. So
yeah, like it's always hard because I think quality over quantity every single time. I know there's like teams that have bigger staffs than us. I'm pretty sure TL has a bigger staff than us. I know TSM in the past has had positional coaches, so they possibly have a bigger staff than us, but I don't necessarily know if they're like effective. And I think we were really effective this year because we like I put a lot of responsibility on each of them instead of like giving them smaller responsibilities and having a lot of people because it's really hard to manage that. Like I'm sure it's possible to have 5 positional coaches and actually make that work, but it's really fucking hard. And you know, congrats to like whoever in NA has tried it, but no one succeeded so far.
Yeah. I mean, Scar, what do you think about the positional coaches thing? Because when we had Double Lift, I talked about I thought it was an interesting idea to have someone that you can just like talk to about that stuff. The only problems I could see coming up is like it's not really a team focus type thing. It'd just be an individual type thing, and unless you had someone to manage them, it'd be really hard to like figure all that out. So.
It seems like a luxury for the most part, and a lot of the players, when they're at the very top of their respective field, they only like really respect other people like near the top of their respective field. So unless like they can, like the positional coach has to give value and earn the respect, or have like the coach like give them some sort of like respect initially, so that you know they can do their thing. And sometimes I feel like that's just not possible with certain players. Maybe I'm wrong though, but like Hussain, do you think it's possible to have positional players for every single team and every single player in every team in EU?
Like I think eventually, like a few years down the line, but like right now, definitely no. Like there's still a lot of player ego, and part of it is right. Like to be a positional coach, I think you do need to be like, you probably need to be a player of that level.
Yeah.
I think it's really, I understand because I don't play League really, like at all. I haven't played it in months, or probably this whole year now. And that's like different. Like coaching a team is different than like being a positional coach. I think it's much more beneficial to like eventually have active subs that coach each other, because at least you have someone of the same caliber. Like, can you imagine like me bringing on like a Diamond 5 analyst and having him try to coach PewDiePie? That shit it'd be funny, but it'd be fucking terrible. It just wouldn't work. And that's true for like the current pro scene as well. It's not going to work because you cannot demand that respect as a positional coach. So personally, I think positional coaches are kind of like a dream concept. I think instead get an active sub roster and have them work off each other, because at least they're like players of similar skill and they can build each other up.
Oh, yeah, that's probably right. Positional coaches, unless you had There's barely enough good players to make like one good team. There's definitely not enough to make like positional coaches happen. I can agree with you on that. So let's go to the next.
Can you imagine like telling a master player, hey, look, you might be good enough to make challenger, or like you might be good enough to be a pro, but how would you feel about being a positional fucking coach in the background, earn less money, and just get shit on by the actual starter because you're probably wrong half the time? It's there's no way it works.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't work. Yeah.
It'd be a pretty sad reality.
Yeah, it'd be very unfortunate. But let's go to the next. So let's talk draft. How important is the draft, and whose fault is it when the draft goes poorly?
That one depends on the team. So for us, like, the players have give me input on their matchups, but generally it's me and our strategic coach that do the drafts completely. So they'll know the matchups they're likely going to go into on game day, and they'll be given reasons. It's like for every bad situation, we'll always give them a reason and how to play it out, like what we're expecting from them in the game. But in Misfits, like draft is like purely coaching staff. So it's easy to fault drafts on Misfits. But I can't say that for other teams. Like I don't know, even TSM, I don't know. I doubt Part takes 100% responsibility, or the coaching staff takes 100% responsibility for drafts. I'm sure like on stage, players dictated more than in our team, for example.
Do you think the Misfits strategy is good? Like, do you think that one?
No, I think it only works if you're good enough. Like, that's not to say that the players have no input. Like, if we're on stage and a player thinks something is really good, or like if a certain pick completes the comp, like, he's going to call it out. And quite often, I will say, okay, look, there's a blind pick. You have counter pick here. You see 3-4 picks. Choose what you think is best. Or we're going to play around you, pick your champion. Like, it's not like those situations don't exist, but there's little input in composition or like strategy going into a game. Like, the way we approach teams, or like what weaknesses we want to attack or what strengths we want to show, is like just coaching staff on Misfits. But that's not doable on other staffs. Like, you have to be confident enough and probably cocky enough to like actually use that power, and then your players have to trust you enough that you can do it. And we have that, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way or that it'll work for everyone else.
So for drafting, how would you go about doing it? Is it something like you have a composition in mind, you want to go for like these exact champions? If you can't get those champions, you fill them out? Or does it go like you have a concept in mind, these champions can fit into this concept? Like, how would you go about drafting, I guess?
So I'll use the SKT series as an example, because we changed our drafts a lot through the series. So game one, quite often going into a best of 5, we'll say that game one will be like a comfort draft or a test draft to see what they're playing. And then from there we'll adapt. So we'll always have like 3-4 strategies prepared for every best of 5, and then we'll decide on one to start the day off with, and then see from there. So game one, we got fucking destroyed in draft by SKT because they pulled out shit we didn't expect. They had like 3 flexes. It was the hardest draft I've had to go through. And so that game was doomed. Then we've been practicing this like Karma mid with engage support strategy with Ignore and engage for like most of the Korean boot camp, and then every now and then during Worlds playoffs. So we were confident pulling it out, but we never had the chance to. So without wanting to BM SKT, I thought their bot lane was like abusable if we played like this. And it kind of takes away Faker from his biggest strength. So we decided to pull that out for game 2 and game 3, and it worked well. And then game 4, we knew they would adapt to that as well. So when prepping for game 4 draft, we knew that we were not going to get the same kind of, like just a hard win draft again. So it was more about seeing what they adapt and then like figuring out on stage on the fly. So I know a couple of people have like criticized the game 4 draft. I think the strengths and weaknesses, I don't think any team on that draft, I think it was even. But like regardless, it's like a process to it. Like the first game will always start off to see like, how we're feeling about the series, what the strengths and weaknesses actually are on stage, because you can always theorize, but it's always different on stage. And then from there, we'll have an early game composition. We'll have like compositions that abuse bot, abuse mid, abuse top. We'll be flexible, so we can pull them out from game 2 onwards. And then 4 and 5 is like always, if it's against a good team at Worlds, if it's in a best of 5, 4 and 5 will like rarely be about draft. You'll come out even, or you'll slightly lose or slightly win. It'll always be about execution. So like 4 and 5 rarely matters for draft as much as execution.
Okay. I mean, for drafting, do you guys put priority? I mean, do you put priority on the team comp that you have in mind, or like power picks? I guess like if they fuck up a ban or something.
It really depends on them. So like again, I guess SKT again, for example, like we were banning in a way where we would ban one Ardent and they were forced to ban the other on red side. And so if they did that, then we knew that we could pull out this Karma mid strategy. And if they didn't do that, then we would get just a really strong OP in first pick. So we were prepared for both, playing just the meta against SKT, but having the stronger Ardent, or playing like the strategy that we prepared. So like it partially depends on SKT, but we always go in with like every single draft we go into with 2 plans, and then we see how they're banning, and we'll like switch drafts midway to whatever we think is best. Whoa. Like it's never really about like against SKT, it was about attacking the bot lane and neutralizing Faker in mid lane, making sure that they can't really do much mid. And so no matter what, like the idea was always in draft to be able to make plays bot, or like have more options for proactivity in bot lane. And if we can do that, then we're happy with draft. It doesn't matter if our top side loses. It doesn't matter if they can snowball mid, because that's not the plan we went in with. But that doesn't mean that like we'll stick to one specific strategy for snowballing bot. We'll have 2 or 3.
So wait, how much prep do you guys put into stuff like this? Like, just take your SKT series into mind. I'm sure you guys spend a lot of time doing that. Like, but like, try to quantify it for me. Like, what's it look like? You guys put in like, 10 hours before the week of to be just on drafting? Like, what does it look like for you guys?
So like it depends again on like who we play and like what we're playing for. If it's a regular season, I actually don't prep for a team during any regular season match. Maybe like a G2 or something, but generally during the regular season, I'll prep. I'll treat it as practice for my team. Like those fundamentals, become a better team, blah blah blah. Then when you get into playoffs, then it's like a lot of like. Again, it depends on the team. So like when we played Unicorns in playoffs, that was very easy prep. Like that we figured out how to beat them in draft in like a day, not even. So for the whole week of practice, we knew like what we had to do, because they had very glaring champion pool issues. Fnatic had glaring champion pool issues, so we knew what we needed to approach them with. The G2 one was like really hard because they have no issues. You just have to straight up be better than them. So then it's like just knowing the meta, and for the finals, we didn't know it well enough. So for Worlds, for the group stage, we knew what the meta was. So week 2 was about attacking certain people, and week 1 was about playing meta. Week 1 we played really standard. Week 2 we came out with like Blitzcrank and shit against TSM. So it really depends on like when it is and like what we're playing for, whether we attack a team or we just play meta. But prep time is like, for SKT, it was pretty much the whole week. It was really hard to prep for SKT. You can't beat SKT through cheesy strategies. You have to straight up be better on the map. And those teams are always the hardest to plan for, because you can't just win on draft. You have to beat them in the game. And there's other teams like Unicorns during playoffs where you just straight up can beat them in draft. So it's like really easy to prep.
So you said you took all week. Like, how much is that in like hours?
Like 6 games a day. I think for between week 1 and week 2, we had like 3 days of scrims. So like 18 hours of scrims, and then say 2 hours a day of prep. So like 24.
Damn.
Pretty much a whole day of prep.
Are you guys just like rewatching VODs and stuff? Or are you just like putting?
No, the team doesn't really focus on that so much. Like they're free to, and they often just watch VODs on their own to learn about like the opponent and their role. But like as soon as I know who we're playing against, I'll usually spend that night watching as many VODs as I can. And then once I have an idea of the team, then it's like not so much about SKT. It's about making sure that like in scrims we have like 4 or 5 different strategies and like 4 or 5 different ways of drafting, and we have enough scrims to like test those. And then once we've tested them, like we'll even lose scrims just purely due to draft, but we'll know like how to fix the draft after that. So the scrim practice is mostly about fixing draft. Like as far as like what approach I want to take, I usually know that like the night that I know who we're playing.
Okay. Well, you said for scrims you'll sometimes lose just because of draft, Do you feel like it's not that important to have that 100% win rate scrims, like dominating every single scrim?
We lost most of our scrims at Worlds. Like, we had an abysmal scrim record. And even for playoffs, our scrim records are never that good. But by the time we get to our game, we have such a good idea of like how we want to draft and what we want to play and what we're good at, that it's like really easy to sit there the night before with like 18 different games of us just shitting the bed and knowing like, you know, the small moments where we didn't. And so like by the end of it, you'll have like a lot of collected moments where you're not shitting the bed. But I think winning scrims is only important if you cannot keep up mentally. But we worked really hard pretty much all year on like trying to make sure that we were ready mentally for it.
Dude, I was gonna say, like, if you chain lose scrims, I know a lot of players who, like, morale wise, they just take a big hit.
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't easy for us either. Like I remember like we scrimmed a Korean team and we got absolutely dumpstered like one day, and the day before we scrimmed a Chinese team and we got absolutely dumpstered. So we like lost every single game 2 days in a row, and that was like fucking hard to come back from. But it was, and this is like credit to my players, because the players that it was hard on mentally, like, were literally ready the next day, like fully recovered. So as long as the issue doesn't carry over to the next day, it really doesn't matter, because in those 2 days, we still learned so much about like how to play. Like one of the issues we had last play was if the enemy had a fast clear jungler, we really sucked, because we would just chain feed and lane phase, because we would play aggressive and the jungler is faster. And we lost 2 days of scrims because of that. And then the third day, we just sat down, talked about it, discussed it, and it was fixed. Maybe that's the players I have, or maybe that's like, you know, the I guess the system we've set up through the year. But for Worlds, it was never an issue the next day. And like that's, you know,
yeah, that's
huge
impressive. I mean, I'd have to
really
say
nice.
that must be like the players and the system, because I know for me, like, I mean, yeah, if we went on like chain losing scrims, I'd just be like, man, fuck everything, dude. Like, but the thing is
we had those moments at times.
yeah, because like losing, like, I don't know how you guys, I mean, you guys probably feel the same, but like losing is the best way to improve, because it just gives you so much more to work. Like if you're just stomping every game, it's like, what the fuck do you have to improve? Like there's nothing that's like, wow, you really need to fix this after you just 10-0'd these guys in scrims, dude. It's like, this shit doesn't help
It was
anyone.
actually like it was really hard for us, because there were days during the regular split where we would destroy everyone in scrims, and we felt unprepared going into our match, because we didn't actually learn like what the hell we were bad at, but we knew there were weaknesses there, and we had an idea of what they were, but we never actually got to test it. And then we show up on stage, and like someone drafts the way that we think will punish us, and we have no practice against it. Like there's a way to play against it, but we have zero practice against it, because either no one executed it in scrims or no one did it against us. And it was like those moments were harder than like chain losing scrims. Because then, like, if you lose like that on game day after like a week of dominating everyone, that's like so much harder to recover from, because you start questioning everything from like, well, was our practice wrong? Should we change something? Why weren't we prepared for this? As opposed to if you're losing everything, it's like, this game we lost because of this, or this day we were losing simply because of this, and it's like, it's so much easier to fix.
Yeah, like being able to have something to pinpoint, like we're losing because of this, is just so much better than, yeah, if you're winning every game. It's
there were
nice,
really days where like
yeah.
we lost scrims just because, you know, a player would just be having a terrible fucking day and just inting it all day. And in terms of gameplay, we probably didn't learn anything, because we were, you know, inting something at like 4 or 5 minutes, or like each game out of the 6, a different player ints. And so we lose every game in early game, and it's like, well, you know, tough shit. It's hard to learn from this, but like even in those moments, it's like, it's easy to sit and talk about what went wrong, and then like, was it something mentally? Was it something play-wise? You know, is it something that they're doing, or is it just us playing like shit? Like, you still have something to pinpoint on in like the worst situations and losses. But if you're dominating, it's so hard to figure out how to get better.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go to the next topic now. Let's assume an aspiring challenger player wanted to go into professional play. What advice would you tell him to shape him into a top-tier professional player?
So, That's a hard one because I think it depends on like their personality and like how open they are to criticism and how fast they learn. Like, so on my team, both Alfari and Hans were rookies. Like, pretty much they went from solo queue to first split in Challenger, but Challenger was really weak or we were really strong and we had some veterans, so that was easy. And then first split LCS, but without any like proper professional experience. But both like the growth of Alfari and the growth of Hans were really different. Hans was a lot more receptive to everything and quick to learn, but he would make the same mistake a few times and then he would suddenly get it, and then he was consistent at never making it again. And Alfari was consistently good, but it was hard to figure out like how he can be better on the map because what he was doing was working, but maybe it doesn't, and it probably shouldn't work against better teams. So it really depends on how good they are and like where they come from. With Alfari, it was like figuring out like a lot of it was just like shadow boxing against better teams or better top laners and figuring out if this should work or not. And with Hans, like bot lane is just a farm fest always, so it was like figuring out how he needs to shot call and not die when his support goes to ward and random shit like that. There's like not any single advice I can think of.
Really? So like some guys
outside of not being like a cocky ass kid that cannot take any fucking feedback, because I've seen those players, I've worked with those players, and it's impossible to fucking grow or do anything in the scene on a top team if you're like that. You just can't.
Well,
that's the first advice.
Well, let me ask you, like, for me, the way I think of it, like, you have to have 3 traits to be, like, a professional player. You have to have the attitude, the team play, and the skill. Where would you place these 3 things? Like, for me, I'd probably, like, team play, I think, is probably the most important thing, because it doesn't matter how fucking good you are. If you think you're 1v5 god, man, you're gonna be useless as fuck. So, like, I'd put team play first. Would you put attitude second, or would you put skill second?
Attitude, always.
Really?
There are so many examples of top tier teams without like the best player in the role, or like even a top 3 player. Like G2 had Expect, and he worked really well for them. I wouldn't say he was a top 3 top laner in Europe, but he worked really fucking well for them for a really long time. And you've got SKT with like fucking Blank and Bengi. Like I don't think anyone's going to claim Blank or Bengi were the greatest junglers in their region by far. They were good, but they were better junglers individually. But it didn't matter. Like if you were able to work with your team and like you have like a good attitude, like if you are a player that's like decent mechanically but really good in teamwork and you know how to raise your team's morale and how to learn and how to like enforce learning, like that's so much more. That's you're just offering so much more than, you know, the ability to like, you know, do some fancy ass shit.
Yeah, I can agree with you.
Maybe at the top level it's different, but like you don't need. Not every pro player is going to be the top level player. But if you're like, especially if you're new, you shouldn't be aiming to be the best player in your region or in the world in your first split. That's like really unrealistic. You should be aiming to be the best you can be within that period. And if you can be top 6, like that's something good. Like that's something to be proud of. And you don't need like great fucking mechanics to do that.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. Like I think people really overrate how important it is to be like skillful. Like obviously being skillful is fucking important, but like most challenger players can flash abilities and do shit. Like when you want to go to like scripter level where you don't even need to flash anymore, you just juke literally every single ability that's coming at you. Like that's pretty fucking unrealistic. Like most pro players don't do that because 1, it's risky and stupid as fuck, and like 2, like you don't need to go for crazy
plays. Player in Europe that plays like that. So like Caps was a rookie and he plays like that. Like you'll be walking to him with your jungler coming up as well, and he'll see both of you and he'll walk towards you to dodge skill shots. And it's like, you can't plan for this shit. Like it just happens. And you know, either he's a god or he's overly cocky and he just gave up something that there was no reason to give up. So like, it's a gamble at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, like you can just look at World. There's so many examples of a team being down CS and lane and then winning the game, right? Like I remember like what Longsy versus Samsung the first game. Literally, Crown got smashed so hard in lane. Holy shit, it didn't matter because his team was able to help him with it, and the other mid laner made like a really stupid mistake. So
Like, actually, speaking of Samsung, like, Ambition is the perfect player to prove this point. They are a top team at Worlds, but Ambition is nowhere near the best jungler at Worlds mechanically. He's not even top 3. Probably. Actually, maybe that's tough to say. There's some bad junglers in this tournament. But regardless, like, in his region, he's not top 3 mechanically. But he brings so much to them in terms of shot calling, morale, teamwork, leadership, like, and then you add, like, his teamwork, like, it's so much more valuable, even at that, like, even at Samsung's level.
Yeah.
So unless you're like good enough to be Samsung or SKT, like your skill set is not going to matter if you can't learn or work with your team.
Yeah, like for someone, if for a challenger player that's up and coming, I would tell them like, yeah, unless you're basically scripter level god fucking mechanic, it doesn't fucking matter how good you are. Like, if you
unless you're I'm a cutie pie.
Yeah, unless you're I'm a cutie pie, it doesn't fucking matter, dude. Because if you can't vocalize like what needs to happen, like it doesn't matter too. If you can fucking like figure out like this is everything that needs to happen in this game. We're doing this, this, and this. If you don't say any of that shit, you're fucking useless. Like you need to be able to work with your team, and you need to have a good enough attitude that even if your team fucks up, you don't go into like fucking meltdown mode, like. Say nothing, do nothing. Like that's the worst fucking thing that can happen from like a professional point. Because once you stop doing stuff, the game's fucking over. So,
dude, I want to say one of the things that I think is really valuable is like a lot of people when they play the game, they understand their role at an amazing level. Like they're just like, okay, I'm the AD carry. This is the AD carry. What he's supposed to do, and everyone else just does their own thing, and then I'm part of that piece of the puzzle. And it's like. Whenever I hear interviews from players where they're just like, yeah, honestly, we lost this game because they just outplayed this top side and like, I don't really know what went wrong. I don't really know what I can do better to fix that. It's just like something that we have to do. Like, you have to get better at. I'm just like, oh my God, what was that? Like, I feel like a lot of players focus so much on just their role. Like, I think understanding the game, like what everyone has to do is like something that's so important. Like, I cannot stress enough that like, you're playing a game where it's not just you. Like you should be understanding the role of every single person in the
game.
Yeah, like that's actually so important because we had like an issue to do with this in Spring Split where like we all purely focused on what we're supposed to do in our role. There was like no consideration about like how much this fucks over our jungler or how much this fucks over our mid or like maybe if I harass someone like less over here, I help out a side lane. Like none of this existed. If I have a lead or like if I have a position where I can just dominate my lane, I'm going to try to do that. And if I get fucked for it because I didn't help my jungler, well, that sucks. And that's not like we're way past that. G2's way past that, but that's the norm for so many teams still.
Yeah, that
at least in Europe.
Yeah,
and probably in Asia.
Off of that too, that's another thing where up and coming challenger player, I see this shit so often. Their support will go to ward mid lane. They'll why the fuck are you warding mid lane, dude? We have them under the tower. They're like Half-Life. What are you doing? Like,
oh god,
like that kind of shit. Like, I say that shit too sometimes because it fucking tilts me and because I'm a fucking solo queue idiot. But like. If you want to be a professional player, you have to understand you don't fucking matter. It's the like whole of your team. Like, if you spot the jungle, everyone on your team fucking gets something out of that. If you see the jungler when he's fucking bot lane and you're already smashed, like he's probably not gonna come bottom anyways, and it's just fucking useless. Like that shit doesn't help you at all. Like being able to. Again, play with your team and like make the most out of your advantage, not for yourself but for your teammates. Is like what makes great players great.
You know what the worst part is that regionally there's like always these teams that'll have junglers that'll like do some random cheesy ass level 3 pathing somewhere that you cannot predict, and it's like the most fucking gamble play possible. But if it works, whoever the victim is, that's immediately OP, far and away. That's the most OB thing. You should do it every single fucking game.
Yeah.
And then, like, you get to Worlds and you start scrimming Korean teams and you do the same shit and they either react to it correctly or, like, even if they die, they don't care because in the meantime, their jungle is going to go water the whole jungle, and then they're going to track you for like the next 2-3 minutes, and you cannot do anything. So unless this kill like snowballs the whole fucking game for you somehow, it's fucking useless. And you straight up lose the game against like top Korean teams for doing a level 3 play. And in Europe, it's like so hard to like convince players that this, I understand that this is happening regionally, but it doesn't fucking matter if you learn to react correctly, because like I can understand it from a player's point of view too. Like you're playing like, you know, your lane the way you should be playing it at the top level, and then all of a sudden there's like a fucking random ass Jarvan coming from like behind you through some fucking cheesy ass wall jumping shit, and there's no way to react to it or expect it or like change anything. And you're not supposed to change anything.
Yeah, that's like one of the,
that shit will tilt you for like life.
Yeah, that's one of the traps that especially players in solo queue will fall into, is they'll die to something that's like sometimes you're just gonna die to shit. Like sometimes someone's gonna make a stupid fucking play and there's nothing you could do. Like I've gotten roamed on by TF at like level 2, and it's just like, you fucking got me, dude. Congratulations. Like I'm not gonna tell my mid lane, dude, you need to be roaming level 2 every game. It's like, no, that's fucking stupid. He just like missed 2 waves. Like if he kills me, you killed him. If he doesn't kill me, he just auto lost the game for his team off that shit. So it's like,
and you know what the worst part is? Like it's like as a coach, it's just purely feels bad, man, because all you can tell them is, don't worry, in return we'll get a lot of vision. And this guy's sitting here like, well, you know what? I just missed like a wave and a half of B, and I died to some cheesy ass shit. And it's like, don't worry, we'll see. It won't happen again.
Yeah,
for the next 3 minutes.
I could only imagine from a coach's perspective that kind of shit. Like, cause yeah, if I had to deal with that shit, I complain about it too. Like, man, what the fuck? Like, fucking. That shit would have known.
And they're not wrong to complain about it, especially like with any LCS moving to best of 1, for example. Like, they're not wrong to complain about it. That shit is gonna win you games regionally.
Yeah, it probably will.
But you know what? At the same fucking time, like, your goal is either to like win your league or like to do well at Worlds. And if you want to do well at Worlds, you got to sacrifice some shit during the regular season. But it's really hard to convince players, or like not to convince them, but to like keep them maintained.
Wait,
during like the fucking level 3.
That's an interesting statement. So do you think you cannot domestically win your league and be the best team at Worlds?
No, I think you can.
Region? Okay.
I think you can. I think like Korea does it quite often, but I don't think you can rely on winning best of 1s through cheesy strategies that don't work at the international level and then be good at the international level. I think like there's a difference between coming up with like cheesy strategies that only work in best of 1s and like coming up with strategies that legitimately work, like that can work in a best of 5. So like perfect example, Longju does not play the game the way other Korean teams play it, or like the way at least SKT and Samsung play it, right? But it doesn't matter because the way they play is legitimately good if you can execute it. It's not cheesy. But on the other hand, a Jarvan doing like Raptor Red, like enemy wolf and coming at you from behind is cheesy, and it's going to lose you the game. It's going to lose you the game even if it works, probably. But it can win you a best of 1. And if you're going to rely on that to like go week to week, then no, it doesn't matter if you win the region then.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that's the difference.
I mean, we'll finish this topic with Scar. We didn't get so. What's your take on what I said about teamwork, attitude, skill? Where would you put these?
I don't know how you can have a bad attitude and still have good teamwork. I'll be honest. Like I almost feel like attitude and teamwork like at the same level. I think it's really hard to have
I think you can have a bad attitude and still work with your team. Like I'll listen to people if they tell me what to do. I won't like it, and if it goes wrong, I'll be like, dude, what the fuck was that call, man?
Yeah,
but I think he's a perfect example of good teamwork and like probably, you know, some questionable attitude in a team.
What's the example?
Possibly.
I mean, I'm with you guys. I think attitude's second. You know, like I look at the skill level of Worlds players. I'm just like, you know, some players are just better. Like I look at some AD carries. Wow, this AD clearly outcasted this guy. BED destroys Crown and lane. You know, and it's like, does it really matter? Not if he knows how to play with his team and find his way back. Like. In the end, like mechanical skill, it's nice and all. A lot of times, if you're just in like, if you're in the wrong position at the wrong time, like no amount of mechanical skill can outplay like you being bad or like you like not playing well within your team. I think, And like, the attitude thing just makes it so that you can improve and your team can improve faster than anyone else. Like, so even if your mechanical skill isn't that good, you'll have a better, like, faster team improvement if your attitude is good, for sure.
Okay.
And like the mechanical shit like matters for like late game, and it matters for like, I guess, laning phase, but it doesn't actually matter for like snowballing leads. It just matters for like getting leads and winning late game scenarios. But you don't need to be a perfect team in League of Legends. Like SKT is not a perfect team and they're in the semis. No. Or late game team fighting players. Like you can be good enough in laning phase to get past it, be just that much better at snowballing or playing for objectives, and then like end the game from there. It's possible.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that, yeah, like skill. If you're not the world's greatest, like it's hard to see it from like a solo queue's perspective, because in solo queue, like realistically, the only thing that matters, are you better than your opponent? Because solo queue is just a fuck. Like you need to be rotating, you need to be doing all this shit. It doesn't matter. Wow, you can right click the fuck out. Play this shit. So yeah, if I would say for up and coming players, ending the game and playing the game are two different things. Like people can play the game, but to understand it, speculating about what's going to happen to EU this year. With rumors of teams and players leaving, is EU going to be
Exodus or anything? Because if you like, yes, there's new franchises coming in, but there's a lot of players in NA that like from the previous orgs that will need to be recycled. And then along with that, like if you consider the 10 teams that were there previously, there weren't actually that many openings for imports. And it's not that imports in NA are bad. Like sure, some of them are replaceable, but not all of them. So there's not enough openings where like I think it makes sense to claim that like all of Europe is doomed. We'll maybe lose like 5 or 6 like superstar players because they're good enough, but also because they have huge brands. And so in that sense, Europe will have to like rebuild around star power, I guess, but it's really exaggerated how bad it'll be.
Okay, I got a question. So there's a lot of rumors about these European players leaving. Misfits, I hear most of you guys are staying around, most of all the players, if not the coach. Let's say everything sticks together, you guys are all
I think if like
the first
if the fact, yeah, if the got us to this point are there, like if the core of the team is there or the core jungle and top, then maybe we'll have competition. But outside of that, I think just like as a team, we're structure for like long-term growth, and I think we have a better like base. I think
happen to it. They had announced that they're not doing any of that bullshit, right? They're just gonna keep it like it is.
there's a report that came out that said that.
Okay.
Riot EU hasn't announced anything.
Okay, yeah. There's nothing that's actually been like.
That's Jacob Wolf bringing the news.
Yeah.
Dude, the Wolf.
Like star power before, and honestly, it hasn't made any fucking difference. Like they've still done well every. Just lose like 5 players or some shit. Is it ultimately?
I think that like as long as there's a team that's like still got strong macro fundamentals, he will. But and we're one of those teams, so like probably us and G2 are like the teams with the best macro fundamentals, and if one of us sticks around enough, like where our fundamentals don't go away, EU is fine. But if both these teams somehow split apart and there's no one in EU that can teach macro, then that sets us back. That's the only thing I think that sets it back.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, like the topic that we were talking about before, the way I feel about it is, like, if you lose star players, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, League's a macro game. As long as, like, someone can teach you how to do the macro, like, losing a star player, it sucks. I mean, their personality's nice, but you could just end up replacing them anyways. So I think
we're a perfect example of it. No one said we had star players. Like even at Worlds, no one said we had star players. I think we had rookies that are becoming stars, but we learned like a lot from G2. Like everything from in game to like how they approach things outside the game, how they thought about draft, how just like forceful they were about improvement. We learned a lot from them, and so if we can do that from G2, then like at the end of the day, it's like also our responsibility to do that for like other teams, or like for other teams to like learn from us, because it's not us. It's like G2 was the first team in Europe to actually like sit down and like push this hard for improvement in results, and we learned from that. And every other team in Europe is trying to learn from that. So as long as there's a team that you can like look up to and improve from, it really doesn't matter if you lose star power.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to the next topic then. So, what are your plans for the future of Misfits, and why should people watch your team?
So, I'll say, assuming that, you know, I'm with Misfits because there's still negotiations and stuff happening, but assuming I'm with Misfits, like, for one, the last year's goal was just making Worlds and then being good enough to compete at Worlds, whatever that meant. This year, it's winning EU LCS and being good enough to contest for the World Championship at the end of the year.
Ooh, damn. That's a lot.
Assuming that, you know, making Worlds was a lofty goal for us. Like, we were a random team with challengers and with rookies in Challenger. Like,
yeah, I guess that's true.
As long as like you don't play with fear, it really doesn't matter. And we don't generally like respect other teams too much.
I can respect that then. I mean, let me ask you, so why should people watch Misfits? What about Misfits would you say is like, wow, these guys do it?
We're a good example, probably one of the best examples in the West of how to play the game fundamentally. We have probably the strongest coaching staff in the West right now, or like top 2 for sure. And I think with the players that we had last split, like especially Alfari and Hans, I'll point them out because they're the rookies. Like, they performed phenomenally at Worlds. And if people care about Sven and Perks, like if people care about like the next superstars of EU, we have like the two biggest ones. Because what a lot of people don't know is that even though they're rookies, Hans Sama is like one of our Maxwell is our primary shot caller in a lot of things, and Hans is like the one responsible the most about dictating our mid-game macro. Like, he dictates everything in terms of like what objective you go for and everything. He's doing way beyond what a rookie should be doing. And so I think we have everything that a top team should have, but I think we're not scared of the Koreans. So we have the attitude it takes to actually win tournaments.
Okay, that sounds. I'll be on the lookout. I'll be honest. I don't watch that much EU. I mean, Scar, do you watch too much EU?
No, not at all. I don't even.
No one did last year. I don't.
Yeah, it's like the most hype EU has gotten has been off this Worlds. All the EU teams did fairly well relatively to their perceived skill, I would say. And then like on top of that, like for some reason the EU junglers just popped off. I don't even really know what happened there, but like a lot of the EU junglers just like went ham this tournament.
Yeah, I mean,
it's mostly because G2 stuck around. We had the same focus as G2 in terms of growth, and so like, and then Fnatic, of course, were like really fucking good from the start. So, or at least from like summer start. So it was like a really strong foundation for every team to learn from.
Well, do you think? Let me ask you on the foundation thing. Do you think that NA is lacking that kind of foundation from their team? Because I agree that if you have enough good teams, like they'll kind of. I mean, you might not sit down and talk to each other every fucking day, but like just scrimming against each other, it builds up the region as a whole. Do you feel like the EU region as a whole has like, I would say, a better foundation to raise itself up on than NA?
I think in a world where like G2 and us maintain like whatever it is that makes us good, if that happens, then yes. But chances are that won't be the case. Like, chances are there won't be two teams in Europe that have like the same strong fundamentals, the same approach to macro over individual shit. So it happens every year. EU and NA will just reset again. Like, they'll be on the same level at the start of the year, and then it's like whoever improves faster. It's not like NA doesn't have teams to learn from. Like, TSM is a team that tries to play the macro game, and it's a team to learn from. There's maybe like a conversation of like how effective the teams in NA are at, or like how fast they are at teaching this, but the foundation or like the fundamentals exist. Maybe they're just like either not as good as like teaching them, or not like willing enough to like lose games in the regular season to actually force improvement.
Okay. Well, one more question for this topic, and then we'll move on. You keep repeating that whatever makes Misfits and G2 strong. Let me ask you: is it you and the coaching staff that makes Misfits strong?
I think like it's that plus the player attitude. Like the players want to play the perfect macro game, and that matters. Like, for the most part, our core never wanted to, or like as a core, we never wanted to like be the flashiest team. We just always wanted to have, maybe not the perfect game, but like be the smartest team. And G2 was the same. Like, sure, Sven and Perks are like fucking monsters, and Mithy's is great as a leader and a shot caller. But the team always tried to be the best team in terms of meta and map play. And maybe that means sacrificing some ability for your superstars to carry, but in the long run, that's the best approach you can take. So it's definitely not just the coaching staff. Like, you need the players that are willing to like give up shit that affects them individually, so that they can actually grow long term as a team. Because they won't grow individually from it; they'll grow as a team over time.
Okay, fair enough then.
Okay.
Let's go. Now let's move on. We're going to go to our final topic. Everyone's favorite, the classic, dude. Have you ever done a live question and answer before?
No, but
all right,
we can do it.
Let me give you a quick rundown now. We're going to have on the Discord question and answer segment of the show, people hopping onto the Discord, they're going to ask us questions that I'm going to ask you guys, and I'm going to need answers from them. So let's get it underway right now. Let's go find some good topics to select right here. And we'll start off with, I'm going to start off with question number 1. This is, I'm building off of someone else's question. Someone wanted to know, is I'm a Kitty Pie a good friend? Stupid fucking question. Fuck off. A better question to ask is, I'm gonna throw this one to both of you guys. I'm a Cutie Pie as a fundamental player, 0 out of 10. Where would you rate him? Fundamentally, not saying where I am right now, but if you wanted to build me up into the perfect player, what would be my cap?
Oh, your cap, or like where you are right now?
Where could I end up with proper? Because do we all agree? Not everyone can be a 10 out of 10 player, right?
Yeah, especially not.
All right, let me ask you, where do you think I could end up?
8.
You give me an 8?
8.5.
8.5?
8.5. Yeah, I think so. I'd play with you, dude. You at the time when I first was on the team with you, you actually had the best game sense of almost anyone playing the game. Period, in the league. I think, obviously everyone's gotten better since then, but back in season 1, 2, and 3, your understanding of how to play the game was really good. Like, you were a top 10 player, like, this is so stupid to say. You're a top 10 player in terms of understanding. Like, brain-wise, everyone just always is like, yeah, Chaucer's a monster. Like, I agree, he was super good. The biggest thing that made Chaucer great was that, he could teach people the game. You were useless at that, but you understood the game. So, like, fundamentally, I think you're like a very well-rounded player, honestly.
All right, let me throw in before you give your answer. Rate Scar also. I'll give Scar a 4 out of 10. All right, you can go now.
4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. Just because you didn't make me a 10 out of 10, I had to throw that extra question in there now. All right.
So I have no fucking idea about Cutie Pie, but I'll take a shot on the dark. I think if, like, someone you respected actually sat down and told you this is the best play on the map and this is why, chances are, like, whether you like it or not, if you get the logic, you'll agree to it and play along with it. So we've got the teamwork there. I don't know if we'll have the attitude. I'll leave that to you. And then we've got the skill set. So I'll give you like a 7 or an 8.
7 or an 8. Okay, I'll take that. That's respectable. So, Aestheticos wants to know, what do you guys think of the 4 CS per jungle camp change Riot is proposing? So they said that they want to change it to that shit. People are going crazy because you won't be able to track CS. I'll say, from a solo queue perspective, people are talking about no one fucking tracks CS when they jungle in solo queue. Like, that's not something, like, the only people that would maybe track it are professional play. Wait, Sky, you think that people
only on first, like, 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
People do actually track. But then after that, absolutely not, dude. People are blowing the shit out of the water, and, like, the people who are talking about this, like, devaluing the game are, like, the people who don't track it, like, 100%.
The way I feel about it is the same way I felt about when they added jungle timers or whatever, and people were like, you're devaluing the people that write down the timers in the chat. Like, dude, no one was fucking writing down the timers in the chat half the time. Like, that shit didn't matter. Like, I will say, yeah, people track, like, yeah, I'll track the jungler through CS for, like, the first, like, 5 minutes. After his first gank, though, I don't fucking know. Like, I'll just guess, like, okay, well, he had this much CS. He's probably going to go this route, and then some shit's going to happen. He's probably just going to go some stupid jungle route because he's some fucking peanut brain solo queue jungler. Just going to do some stupid shit anyway, so who gives a fuck? Like, what do you think about this, though, Hussain?
I mean, for competitive, it matters because there's, like, certain routes where, like, you either end at, say, golems or you end at gromp, and if you get spotted on a ward, you can actually tell, and that affects, like, the second base or, like, the third base. But for solo queue, I don't think it fucking matters, and even for competitive, it matters quite a bit. But I also haven't looked at the patch notes, so I don't know how the jungle will change. Like, I'm sure there'll be different picks, and maybe that'll change some stuff. But it definitely does matter for competitive to some extent. If you get spotted, then it matters a lot for like second and third base.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, competitive is definitely gonna matter a lot, but yeah, for most of the people complaining about it, yeah, they're just solo queue players.
For solo queue it means jack shit.
Yeah, it doesn't fucking mean anything. Let's go to the next topic. So, have you seen the rune changes?
I haven't.
Okay.
I've seen it. It's not worth talking about.
Yeah. What's this?
Something where like I would need to delve into the numbers like quite deeply, and no one's looking at it until after the season's over.
Yeah. Okay. So Cheetah wants to know. I was talking to Hussain about this before. Scar, what do you think of the Vasily situation that ended up happening? Like, dude, I feel like. We were talking about it before.
What?
Dude, I feel like Vasily was like a ticking time bomb. Do you not agree? Like, I loved Vasily, dude. But like, every time I've heard about him after he left NA, it's literally just anger problems, right?
Yeah, dude, this guy like needs like help, like actually.
Were you guys competing when he was in NA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've pictures.
Were there any
with
stories
him.
back then?
What? He was, okay, I called him the perennial inter. Like, this guy, like, Cutie could back me up. This guy's the guy who, like, he just gave up immediately once the scrim started. Like, if he died once in lane, he literally ran it down and went 0-15. Like, legit, before 20 minutes, 15
Yeah,
minutes.
we'd scrim him. Like, if I killed him solo in lane, he'd just fucking keep inting. Like,
no one likes scrimming LMQ because all they did was fight. And, like, but like the worst person was like for instance, I would play their mid laner, Xiao Wei Xiao. He played Nidalee versus like Ziggs or something. He beat a Nidalee. He run mana region blues and quints, or yellows and quints, or yellows and blues full, and he'd stay in health at lane in 100 health consistently with no vision on the jungler and try to outplay. And then the bot lane would just go wild too. Like they were just like a nuts team. Everyone hated scrimming them.
yeah, like, and even in solo queue, Vasily would just, like, if he died once, he'd just fucking run it down. Like, he was like Tyler 1, except apparently it wasn't a meme. Like, I thought he was like, whenever Vasily just inted, I was like, dude, you're a good guy, dude. I like that shit. But apparently, it was not a meme, so.
I remember people loved him in NA because, like, when he streamed and shit, he would seem trolly.
Yeah, no, I thought...
He never seemed...
Yeah, he never seemed like he had anger problems. Like, I mean, sometimes I see him, like hit his fist against the desk, and I was, dude, good one, dude, you're just trolling, man. You got killed. No one's really gonna be that angry about it, but... Yeah, apparently I was wrong about that one.
This guy's got anger issues. I would not be surprised to see him banned. Like, period, from all competitive leagues. Like, if we're looking to...
Yeah, he's 100% getting
This guy's going to fucking jail, though.
Yeah, he's going to fucking jail. He's getting more than just banned.
Oh, well, like, yeah, his contract got terminated by his team. Like, no, this is, like, ridiculous stuff. Like, domestic abuse, Jesus, man.
Yeah, that's some fucked up shit. But let's go to... My man wants to know, what are your guys' thoughts on AP Galio, and how do you think about Riot treating it right now? So I'll say...
It's still not hotfix, right?
No, it's still not hotfix. They said that they want to wait and see if it actually is, like, how it performs. So when I first read about it, I read it on, like, a thread, and someone was like, yeah, they probably fucked up they meant to make it, like, not tick each time.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and I was like, that makes sense, dude. And then later they posted, like, this is how we meant for it to be. We're going to wait and see how it plays out. And then it's like, what do you think? Do you think any champion should be able to, like, basically 100-0 you in a queue?
No, I think it's so clear cut that this shit is OP.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that it's not hotfixed.
When I first read it, like, I was looking at the patch notes. I do a patch note rundown. I'm like, oh, okay, it's not that much. Like, I looked at the amount of damage it does at level 1 with AP. It does 90 plus, like, 30 plus 3% total. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I found out it's 3% per tick, so it's 9% total. I'm like, wow, that seems incredibly strong. And then it turns out that, like, you can just get to 50 to 80% with full AP on like a 5-second cooldown. What is this ability? Like, I don't understand.
Well, let me ask.
I mean, but this shit happens so often with Riot. Like, there's always like there's so much shit over time that like it's so broken for so long. So,
Yeah, I'm not, because I just can't understand, like, when people meme about, like, Riot has, like, a silver balancing team or whatever, like, I think that their balance team does, like, a decent job. I don't hate them or anything, but, like, with this Galio shit, this is stupid as fuck. Like, yeah, I just played a game where I was playing with support Galio, 4,000 health Jarvan, he killed him in 1 kill. I was like, he was support Galio and he one-shot him. Like, no champion should be able to do that. Not even from the support role, but from fucking any position. Like, that shit's fucking stupid. I'm not really understanding what there is to, like, see about it that maybe it's not.
I'm just salty because I just came out of like a month and a half of fucking Ardent Sensor meta. Right into this Galio pick, like literally right into it. So
what?
It's gonna get nerfed. There's no doubt.
So you say it's gonna get nerfed 100%?
100%.
It's gonna get nerfed, but will it be nerfed enough? I don't know.
Yeah, like, will you be happy if they just make it so it's total percentage instead of each tick?
That would be a huge start, right? Because it cuts the percentage damage down by a third.
Yeah,
like that's so much. Yeah, I think I'd like to see it there. Like, I would have liked them to do this and be like, now we'll see how the damage is. We'll see how it works. I'm just like, okay, that's a reasonable, decision by Riot Games. I like this option. But now it's like, okay, we're gonna just have this queue do like 80% max health, and we'll see, if people can play around it. We'll see how it works. I don't. What the heck are they thinking?
Yeah, I don't know why this hasn't been hotfixed yet. It's pretty fucking stupid. Like, every time I've played against it, it's just like, that's fucking dumb. Like, that shit.
But Janna got hotfixed twice, and this feels so much worse than that.
Yeah.
Like, so much worse.
Like, I remember the first time that they I guess, changed Ardent Sensor or whatever, and they said they were gonna, like, nerf it or whatever. It barely did anything. Then they did the Janna changes, and then it actually ended up being a buff, and they had a hotfix or a bunch, and now it's just like...
And I love how in the patch notes it said this is going to be a nerf overall.
Yeah, like...
and it was a buff.
Let me ask you, are you guys starting to question the Riot balance team? Because, like, some of the shit that's happened, like, I think Riot does a great job with the game, but some of the shit that's happened has been, like... I don't think it took someone with, like, any expertise.
I think they do a really good job if they, like, after they make a big patch change, if they, like, take time to make small changes, they do a really good job of balancing it out. And then they'll do another big patch change, and their big patch changes are really bad. They're always really bad. They're always super unbalanced.
Yeah, I don't mind if they're unbalanced for preseason, right? Or midseason. I think that's reasonable, right? But usually it's like, hey man, go into the best support meta in the game has ever seen. We're gonna introduce Sensor, and we're just gonna nerf Locket Redemption and keep buffing Sensor till it's God. Until everyone and their mothers realize the Sensor is the best item in the game and support's just broken. It's like, okay, well, congratulations, you've done it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, just to finish out this question, did you feel like Galio needed a buff? Because when I saw I was looking through the patch notes and I saw the Galio thing and I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's all I saw. I was like, I don't think anyone I've played with has ever been. Galio's fucking awful, dude. Like,
I think shifting him away from overall tank, making him weaker and maybe making him more AP heavy, having the physical damage reduction of his W, I think that's all great. Like, I think it puts him more toward like a niche. You want to pick him as kind of an AP splash frontliner against other AP champions, kind of like his old role. And I think that's perfectly fine. And I even said that, but I didn't realize the numbers were so high. Like, they're just like, they gave him like an extra 1.5 or something, some insane amount.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think his kit, especially with his ult, like he works in mid lane. I just don't think tanks should be there in mid lane. Just fundamentally, it always feels like it like skews the game up too much. So I don't mind them like turning him into an actual mid laner, but I don't understand how they go through their balance testing process where this is what comes out on live.
Yeah, I can agree with that because pretty much on that. I don't know how the fuck they could have played against this Galio. Like they had 5-on-5 games, I'd imagine, with like-minded individuals playing this, and it's like, you know what? Galio's pretty good, dude. Like, cause they don't. I mean, I don't know this. Maybe Scar knows more than me. They don't just fucking. We're just gonna write some fucking numbers down, throw it in the patch notes. Who gives a shit what happened? Like, they actually test this shit, right?
Yeah, they have a playtest team that's literally like pretty much full time at Riot.
Yeah, so
from what I understand.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So the playtest team played with this Galio, and they played like numerous games of it, I'd imagine, and then they concluded like, this is pretty good. This isn't broken.
To be honest, I've talked to some people on the playtest team, and they've said they're giving their feedback, and their feedback is not the final say. It's up to like someone above them that says yes or no to their feedback. So a lot of like the ex-pro, ex-challenger players on the playtest team come up to me and they're just like, we knew this would be broken. We told them and it didn't get fixed, you know? So I can't 100% blame them, but I can just say that like, yeah, maybe like stuff like this shouldn't be out consistently.
Yeah. Alright.
I agree.
Well, let's go to the next topic. We'll see. Joe Saza wants to know what makes a professional player retire and what makes them come back or go pro in the first place. So I'll say for most professional players, most of them just retire from burnout because, I mean, playing the game as much as you do, it can be fucking mentally exhausting. Like, a lot of people think, like, playing video games, like, it's easy, but competing in anything, especially at the highest level, it's hard to understand how frustrating it can be because when you compete at the highest level, when you're bronze, you see improvement pretty fast because it's like, you know what? I need to start CSing more. I'm going to get all this CS. You just learn to CS better. When you're like challenger, when you're a pro player and you realize you need to start CSing more, it's like, okay, I need to start CSing more. I need to start talking to my jungler to come pressure my lane and tell my support to get in this position so I have a better chance of getting to the CS. And there's so much more shit, and it's so much little things that you have to do to improve yourself that it can just overwhelm a lot of people and just fucking burn you out so fast because it's not such rapid improvements anymore. It's just a game of inches, and that can be fucking frustrating. But for what makes a player want to go pro in the first place? I mean, I'll talk about why I went pro in the first place. I just went pro because I like playing League of Legends. There's nothing that I was like, I didn't want to go pro because like I want the recognition, dude, or I want the money because God knows, Scar can say it too. There's no fucking money in that shit. Yeah, in the early days, it was a fucking wasted time if you were going in for the money. It's just, most pros just go pro because they like playing the game and they just end up going pro. I feel like if you want to go pro and you're like, I'm gonna go pro, you're probably not gonna go pro. Like, it just happens to you. Like, if you're good enough, it'll just happen to you. Like, trying to fucking force it and I'm gonna be the best. I'm getting challenger, dude. No one's gonna stop me. You're gonna fucking burn out. So, Scar, what do you think of the question though?
I think the biggest thing for people who quit pro play is just drive. You know, there are some players that have gotten worse over the years and then like they fall off because they're not good enough, right? But for the most part, that fall off is because of drive. Like, I remember when I was a pro player and the question for me is like, do I want to go back? And it's like, you know what? I want to try coaching for a little bit. I want to see how it is. I believe like, even if it doesn't work out, I'll figure out like more about it and I'll expand my game knowledge. Coach at CLG thought, you know, I don't like coaching more than streaming or playing, so I prefer not to do it again. Even though, you know, I got an offer from CLG to stay on, I thought it'd be bad for the players for me to do this and like half-ass it. I don't want to do that, right? So I didn't kind of wanted to go back into competitive from that point and joined the challenger team where 6A got banned for being toxic, whatever. That's another story. But essentially, I found that like the motivation, the dedication didn't exist from that point. Like as soon as like my AD got banned and I thought about the challenger scene, like going through the challenger scene, just how hard it was, I didn't have like the drive to be able to do it from my earlier positions before. And so I honestly do think as you like kind of get older, like when you're young, you just focus on just being better. And then as you get older, you're thinking like, okay, well, what about the future? Like, what do I do? Like, how do I do this? How do I do that? What about the money? All this kind of stuff. And those things start like chipping away at your dedication to play the game. Like you want to stay 100% focused. And as you get older, it's like 90%, 80%. And some of the times that affects your drive. Honestly, it does.
Okay. I mean, Hussain, do you have anything to add to this?
Not really. Like I can relate to like how much work there is involved and how mentally draining it is, because just this year alone was like 5 years worth of work, just like getting to this point. And then it's gonna be like 5 years worth of work like next year, like in terms of like how exhausted you get by the end of it. So I can only imagine, like, especially if you're a veteran and you do it for like 4 or 5 years, like, especially back then when like there was no pay for it and you just did it because you enjoyed it. And like, you know, you were in the transition phase where it goes from being fun to like being a job that you have to do. Like there's like even more stress back then because you're like also part of the transition phase. So this is a lot of mental exhaustion.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go to the, let's do one final question here. I'll make sure to scan over every question, find a nice juicy one for you guys right here. We'll end on this question. This is a good question right here. This is aimed at all three of us. We'll start with Hussain. So, Hussain, what are your thoughts on Ellis as a coach, and do you think that he's better than you at it?
Wait, what's the second half of it?
And do you think he's better than you at it?
Oh my god. How do I answer this?
Truthfully.
I don't know how he is as a coach because I've never seen him work or really talk to him about the game. And I don't think his like coaching videos are a good example of how he would coach a professional League of Legends team, because if you coach a professional League of Legends team like that, then that's not going to work because there's like more to it than that. And then like my role is also a little different because I take care of strategy. I also take care of mental state. Like I kind of do like, I have my hands in like a lot of bottles. So, I don't know how well he could manage that because there's like no evidence I can go off of. As to whether I'm a better coach than him, that's like really hard to say because there's no real way to actually judge coaches. You can only do so based on results, and then you can't really say like how much a coach did. Like I could sit here and like talk about my responsibilities and tell you guys everything I've done for Misfits or, you know, all of that, and it sounds good, but you will never actually know what I do in Misfits. Like unless you come and you see it, there's no way to know. And so I think results-wise, I am better than LS because you know, I've just taken a team farther. But like whether I'm a better coach than him or not, like that's so subjective.
All right, fair. I'll say I don't know how good of a coach LS is, but he was coaching Tempo Storm, right?
Yes.
Did we end up beating Tempo Storm? We beat them one game, right? We didn't beat a set.
Yes.
I'll just leave it at that, Scar.
Oh my god. I'm with Hussain on this. Look, it's hard for me to judge coaches that I don't work with personally. I will say though, based on what I've seen of his analysis, I think he hyper-analyzes stuff too much. Like, he's the type of guy who gets like really nitty-gritty, and he likes to like kind of like really focus in on things that I don't think are that important. Like for the general state of the game, it's like, it's cool that this side has this pick, but to call this pick like a god pick on this side for like, and then he goes off like 20 minutes on that, I don't really like that. I don't think it's that important. But aside from that, I don't really know how he coaches, you know. That's a real big thing, because I've only worked with one other person, and I've seen another coach work, and that's it. And It's super hard to say from what I was given.
It's the same for me. I worked under one coach ever, and he was really, really good. So I learned a lot from him. It was Hermes, and outside of that, I haven't actually seen any other coach work. So it's hard for me to say like what they do. I've talked to a few of them in Europe, so I kind of have an idea of where they stand and how they work in their teams. So I can like rate myself there. But I've literally never seen or talked to Ellis, and he doesn't really have a long history of coaching League of Legends teams. He has like, I don't even think it was a full split in Gravity. I think it was like half a split. Maybe it was a full split. I don't remember. But he has that split. He has Tempo Storm, and then I think he had like one other challenger team. And as far as I know, that's about it. So it's like, it's not a long enough career, like a long enough record to even judge him in terms of results, let alone like overall as a coach.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that'll conclude the question and answer segment. And with that, it'll also conclude Beyond the Rift. I want to thank our sponsors first and foremost, Discord. Thank you again. Wonderful, wonderful service to allow us to do this right here. Shout outs to them. Shout outs also, Scar.
To Acer Predator, our main official sponsor for this show, as well as, one of our sponsors for the show, as well as the main sponsor for the World League of Legends World Championships. Thank you so much for covering us. You guys got great monitors and laptops.
I want to thank Hussain for coming out. If the people want more of you, where can they find you, my friend?
They can go to @Hussain on Twitter and Hussain.Moosvi on Facebook.
Scar, if the people want more of you, thank you for coming too, Scar. If the people want more of you, where can they get you?
Wait, I get an outro this time?
Yeah. I'll let you have one this time.
Alright, so you can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/Scar and on Twitch. I'll be streaming right after this, so you can catch me playing a couple games there.
And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to check out next Thursday, because Beyond the Rift every Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Same time as always, 5 p.m. EST. But that's going to conclude it for now. So shout outs to you all. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.
Peace, guys.